welcome to Anchor Moments. I am so excited. This is January 2020, and I have a special guest today who started her own company called Career Connectors. And she is going to not only tell us how God brought her to that career, which is an awesome story, she's also at the end of the show, you're going to want to pay attention because she's going to tell us the top 5 new careers that are coming in this new decade. So we can really hear about that. So if you or any of your friends are looking for a job right now, today's show is your show. I'd like to introduce you right now to Jessica Pierce. Hi, Jessica.
Thank you for having me, Gina. This is great.
It's just so exciting to have you. I've seen you a few times. I've actually been to Career Connectors when I was looking for a job a few years ago.
That's great. I'm glad you were there with us.
I am too. Now, Jessica, I had saw on your Facebook you had told this amazing story of how you got started with Career Connectors. And I'm really looking forward to hearing you tell about that today, and tell us a little bit about yourself as well.
Oh, thank you. I kind of fell into this. And it's, I never signed up to run a nonprofit organization, but the way it happened was pretty incredible. So it's been 10 years now.
Okay. 10 years?
10 years, yeah.
Wow. So you've already done a full decade, and now it's decade number 2.
Decade for us. So
yeah.
In the midst of the recession in 2008 and 9, so I was running a staffing firm, and that firm was servicing land development and commercial real estate clients.
Okay.
In the area we live, the market hit really hard in the building and construction. And so in May of 2009, basically all of our clients either went out of business or went to very, very minimal workforce because the banks stopped lending.
Oh my
gosh. So when the market hit with the banks, and so what happened then was we decided to close down our business. And then at the same time, my husband, who is also a recruiter, was laid off 3 times in 6 months. Yeah.
Oh,
and so, you know, we always laugh. We were saying we were living the dream. We were in the house. We had the 3 kids, still have the 3 kids.
Oh, yeah. You didn't throw them out in the recession.
I think they thought at a time they might go. Everything else was going.
Everything was going.
But so what ended up happening is we short sold our home.
Okay.
And we moved and we're renting, and at the time our kids were 10, 2, and then an infant. And so we were right in the midst of raising our kids, and we moved, we're looking for jobs and just did not know the next step. We'd never been in this place, and we're educated, we've worked, have great experience, but all of a sudden layoffs are happening all over the place.
Yeah, and then there's a whole bunch of people that are skilled that are looking for the same jobs that you're looking for.
That's right. The market, there were so many people looking for jobs. And so I noticed that my friends who are incredibly talented were getting laid off left and right, asking me, I don't even know how to write a resume. What can I do?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh. So I was kind of trying to help them here and there. Went to bed one night. This is May of 2009.
Okay.
And just praying, what am I going to do here? How are we going to live? How are we going to take care of our family? And so went to bed that night, and the next morning I woke up. It's so vivid to me, and I will never forget this. I woke up and I said to Mark, my husband, I know what I got to do. And he says, oh my gosh, thank goodness, because we have lots of bills to pay. And he's he's what are you thinking? And I said, I'm going to volunteer. He goes, that doesn't pay the bills.
Exactly, because you have zero money coming in because he's not bringing in any either.
No. And I said, you know, babe, I don't say this very often, but it's clear call from God. It's clear. I have to do this. And he goes, well, I'm not going to argue with God.
Well, yeah.
So I called up my local church, our home church, and just said, can I have a room in the back of the church once a week, and I want to help people write resumes. And they said, absolutely, please.
Yeah, because they're getting probably a lot of people asking about that because they're just devastated and they don't know where to go.
That's right.
And if you haven't done that since you were a kid, you know, I mean, I know exactly where you're at with that.
Market's totally different. Resume applicate totally different. People that have worked for companies for 20 and 30 years, all of a sudden, I don't know what to do.
And I don't have a job.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I started just once a week inviting people to come get their resume looked at, helping them. And then I realized people wanted to talk to employers. And so I pulled in one of my friends who runs an organization with employers. And she started helping me bring employers. And we started growing 25 people a week. And then my senior pastor called me out of the blue one day and said, I heard you're doing this thing for helping people get jobs. And I said, yeah. He goes, okay, will you come on stage and talk this weekend? Because I want to talk about people serving and how they can serve in their giftedness. It doesn't have, children's ministry is great, ushering is great, but not everybody is called for that. And he goes, you're doing something you're called for. And I said, sure. So spoke live at 9 services.
Wow.
Big church in the valley.
And that was new for you because you weren't a professional speaker.
Not at all.
So that was huge too.
Huge. So the next morning, I had actually, during this time, we're now in, I kicked off, May was the time I got the realization. We kicked off in August, and this is now October of 2019.
Wow.
So in October 2019, I went on stage, spoke. I was working a contract position, got called in the middle of my shift from the church, and they said, Jessica, there's a line around the church. And I'm like, what do you mean? They go, people are here that need jobs.
Oh, so this was 2009.
This is 2009.
No,
Oh, sorry,
2019.
2009. I'm
2009.
sorry,
So 10 years ago.
10 years ago. And I was like, what do you mean? And they said, the radio station is here, the news station, and there's a line. So I go, I'll be there as fast as I can. So I show up, and there's 250 people showed up that day. We went from 25 to 250 in one day.
Wow. Of people needing help.
Of people needing help. And so we did our program, and where we have a keynote speaker, we have employers, and then we have resources. And one of the employers got up there who happened to be working for the census, and it was the 2010 census at the time.
Wow, because that's happening right now. Those of you looking for jobs, they're actually hiring right now for the 220 census.
They are, in fact, nationally, everywhere.
Yeah.
They're hiring. Someone has to knock on doors and to help people explain how to do that. So they came up, and this was such a great moment. The guy, the HR director for that company, stands up in front of this room, and he says, I have 3,000 jobs. I can hire all of you today.
Wow.
And I was like, whoa, what just happened?
Is huge. Look at all those lives you were able to make a difference for right there and then.
Definitely confirmation that what I had been called to do
was
to do this area. So then we kept doing the program. We ended up turning it into a nonprofit. We realized it was more than what I had originally signed up for, to help a couple people write resumes. And now we are 10 years, lots of hills and valleys. We work with a lot. We've served just under 40,000 people now in the 10 years we've been doing this.
Wow.
So it's been a pretty incredible ride.
And that entire part was because you prayed before you went to bed. God, I want to get a new job. I don't know what to do. Please help me. And in the morning, you really felt what he wanted you to do first was volunteer.
Yeah, it was so clear. It was incredible.
Yeah.
And I always hear, it just takes one person. It just takes one person to make an impact. And I could never really understand that. I'm like, no, you got to have a big group. You got to do us. And I'm telling you, if it's God calling, it's going to happen. You are going to figure out one person can change many, many lives. Now, I don't do this alone. I certainly have an incredible team that does this with us now. But
But in the beginning, it was you.
Yeah.
You know, and then having to take that leap of faith to ask your pastor, will he give you a room?
That's right.
One day a week to be able to do this.
Yeah. It's been quite a journey.
Yeah, that is a wonderful journey.
Yeah.
And then now you work for a nonprofit because you have owned it, but you're able to draw a salary from that too, correct? And to put food on the table.
That's right. I remember a meeting with my pastor, and he said, it was about a year in.
Okay.
And he said, Jessica, it's so clear that this is what you're called to do. You have to figure out a way to fund it, so this is what you can do with your life, and you're able to pull a salary from it.
Yeah.
And so it took about 3 years to make that happen, but we're there now, and it's been pretty awesome.
Wow, that is so awesome.
Yeah.
That is so awesome. Now, I went to some of your Career Connector things, in 2015, I knew I had a part-time job at the YMCA, did that for 10 years. I was their community outreach person. Loved it. It was the perfect job for me while I was doing kind of the stay-at-home mom thing. I did that for a few years, but I needed, just a little part-time work because I had a husband who was drawing a full salary, that helped out.
Yep.
And when I had one child in college and one child getting ready to go to college, I knew, uh-oh, okay, I was a teacher before I was a stay-at-home mom and had a master's degree in education and taught school for 11 years. But then I had a ton of years where doing community outreach, I didn't have to stay with technology. I just had to be in person and go to chamber events and go to other events and tell about the YMCA and get people to come to the events that the YMCA was having. So it was very, very simple for me to do. I just had to use my energy and love and passion and then go out in the community. It was great. And when I decided to leave, I prayed to God and I said, God, I will go anywhere you want to send me. I will do any job that you want for me to do. However, you've got to make the signs big. You got to make them crystal clear because I'm not hearing you. I'm talking to you all the time, but I don't hear any voices coming back. You're not talking in burning bushes to me or anything. But if you would really, really give me crystal clear direction, I will throw away my free will that you have given me, and I will say yes to your will, and I'll do whatever you ask.
Yeah.
And it's really funny because God doesn't always do things instantly, where it's so crystal clear and oh, here it is. Sometimes he has this big picture for you and it's over here, and there's a few things you have to do that'll get you to over here.
Yeah.
And so it was funny, a week after I prayed that, and this is, it was a week before this day on the back of my Anchor Moments book that I prayed that, God introduced me to Christine Ellis, who had a show on Holy Spirit Broadcasting Network, which just started in 2015. I met her in September of 2015. Holy Spirit Broadcasting Network started in March of 2015, and Christine Ellis was one of her first broadcasters. And when I told a story, I was the chair of the YMCA Interfaith Prayer Breakfast, and I told a very heart-touching story of a friend who survived the Holocaust. And during the Holocaust, when she was surrounded by evil and death, one of her fellow Jewish friends gave her a gift, and it spread extreme joy to her, and it was a very, very simple gift. It's in chapter 14, and you can read that another time if you would like to. But when I got off the stage, there wasn't a dry eye in the place, and Christine Ellis was so touched that she came running towards me, gave me this big bear hug, and said, I want to join your prayer breakfast planning committee. And I said, well, sure. And she said, here's my business card. I didn't think about it until 4 years later.
Oh, wow.
But her business card said Christine Ellis, Holy Spirit Broadcasting Network. No, I didn't get a job immediately with HSBN. I actually, for 6 months, tried to get a job. I went to Career Connectors and saw some of the things you were doing, but I did not know how to do Windows Excel, which was really big. That one really plummeted me. I would get job interviews, like at ASU to be a program director and things that all of my experience with event planning and all of my experience as a teacher and my master's degree, I would get the interview and they would be smiling at me and they would be liking me, and then they'd ask that dreaded question, how proficient are you in Microsoft, especially in Excel? And then I had to tell them, I don't know how to do the magic math. I've seen Excel spreadsheets before, and if someone else does the magic math to make things happen, I can type in and add data, but I don't know how to create those charts. I don't know how to make it do its magic math. And you could just hear, wah, 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 next, I'm out. And so after 6 months of not being able to get a job, I went to my community college, and I was able to take a class
Yep.
in Microsoft, so I could. So now I
Yes.
know how to do the magic math, and
Yes.
I could do that. And the second I was done, I met a lady, Jennifer, who's going to be on my show, and a couple of weeks will be on my show. She said, Gina, I work at Matthews Crossing Food Bank, and it's a really amazing place, and I really want you to meet our executive director. And so I said, sure. She said, will you go on a tour? And I said, okay. And so I go on the tour. Jan Terhune was the executive director. She was in a sorority, and Anchors was their symbol.
Oh,
They did a
okay.
lot of things with anchors. And I told her I had a blog called Anchor Moments, when she was giving me the tour. And she's like, really? And then she looked at me and she said, Gina, I know God's telling me right now I have a job that I need to give to you. And it's to be the community outreach person for Matthews Crossing. And she said it'd start off as part-time, but later it could develop into a full-time position. And we need someone to plan our gala.
Yeah.
And so I got a position at Matthews Crossing Food Bank, and it was wonderful. Except it's such a small, there was only like 5 staff members,
Yeah.
and they have about 100 volunteers. It's an amazing food bank, super awesome, but. With so few staff, there was no benefits, no health insurance,
Yeah.
all that kind of
Yep.
stuff. And I was still kind of where I was at the Y. And I had an opportunity doing community outreach for them at Even Stevens, that I went to their restaurant and I gave the commercial for the gala, and I thanked Even Stevens for dropping off a silent auction basket. And they offered me a job. And I told them, I can't. I've just got this job at Matthews Crossing, but maybe in the future. And they took my information, and they liked hearing all about Matthews Crossing, so I got them attached to the Even Stevens that was in Tempe at the time. And they used to do a thing where every sandwich you buy, they would donate one
Right.
to 4 nonprofits
Yep.
per store. So because I'd been there, I was able to get Matthews Crossing on their radar, and they were got attached to an Even Stevens. And once they got attached, 2 weeks later, they said, "Okay, Gina, we took care of your Matthews Crossing, and now we want you to work for us." And so I worked for them. Absolutely loved it. It was my job to get the staff members to volunteer at the different nonprofits that we would give free food to. But gosh darn it, they grew too fast. And their first 2 restaurants took off like gangbusters, and they were profitable and really awesome. So in the next 2 years, they opened up 18 more stores to where they had 20
Oh, wow.
stores, and that's too many.
much.
So if
Yeah.
you do, for those of you out there that are thinking of starting your own franchise or whatever, and they didn't even do it as a franchise, actually they were all corporate owned. So they owned all those stores, but they had to get a ton of investors to invest money to
Yeah.
open them up. Don't grow too fast. Take your time. As soon as your one company, your one piece is profitable, then open up one new store. And when that one's
Yeah.
profitable, then open up your next. But don't just jump in.
do it all at once.
Because it doesn't work that way. And they went out of state. And once the ones they had in Utah where they originally started did great. And so then they started to take it out to a bunch of other states, and
Just too much.
And it was too much.
Yeah.
And they folded. And I will tell you, crushed me.
yeah.
When I got laid off because they were closing the stores, I had posted on Facebook a picture of a sunrise, and I said, I'm going to start a new chapter of my life. And one of my friends says, oh, how exciting. What's the name of this new chapter? And I said, I don't want to call it crying on the couch, but that's all I've done for the last 2 days. And that's when I
Yeah.
announced I just got laid off from Even Stevens. They closed
Yeah.
their stores. I'm devastated. And I don't know what I'm going to do, but it has to be a new chapter, because this book, it's gone.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the top 5 most stressful things you can go through in your life is a layoff, a firing, a career change. One of the top 5.
Yeah.
And so many people sit in that space of crying
Right.
on the couch, and I don't know what to do, and I can't even get up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought, And I loved that job. I mean, seriously, I loved it. Every moment that my eyes were open, I was working, because I was community outreach for them too.
Yeah.
And I was over 4 stores, which had 16 nonprofits that I got to deal with,
Oh,
and I
so fun.
loved it. I was just totally I was working with all of my talents, and it was just fantastic, but it wasn't enough.
That's right.
And so it was just heartbreaking. And then after the second day of crying, my husband was like, oh, good Lord, Gina, stop it, stop it. He said, you know what? You started that Anchor Moments blog in 2015, and you have told me since 2015 you were going to write an Anchor Moments book, but you never had enough time.
Yeah.
Because you're either working really hard for Matthews Crossing, and then you were working really hard for Even Stevens. This is now your time. We'll be okay.
Yeah.
Write that book. Don't even apply. I didn't even apply for unemployment, because then you have to look for a job while you're on unemployment, and he didn't want me to have one. He's like, right now, just write that book. And I was like, wow, really, Jeff? And he said, yeah. And I sat down and I wrote my book. And once it was done, and while I was writing it, Christine Ellis kept telling me, hey, Gina, you should be on my show on Holy Spirit Broadcasting Network. It's an international Christian show. And I told her, that as soon as my Anchor Moments book is done, I'll be on your show. Well, my book got finished, and it had only been out for a couple of weeks, and I got to be on Christine's show.
That's great.
And it was so funny because I'd been such good friends with her since 2015. I forgot that's where we met.
Yeah.
And when I was showing the book and the back, Christine was like, oh, yeah, that was the day I met you, Gina. And I was like, wow, that's right. And you'd given me your card.
Yes.
When the show was done being taped, Apostle Andy and his lovely wife, Anne Marie, they're the station owners. They said, Gina, we've been praying for a long time to give a show to somebody who's Catholic, and we'd like to give you a show. And so,
fantastic.
Yeah. And so, boom. So even though in 2015, when I got that sign, it wasn't ready for me until 2019. And now I have the Anchor Moments show. And I'm writing my second book, and I'm going to be putting a lot of different times that I've seen God in my life when working for nonprofits and volunteering for them. And it's going to have kind of an Even Stevens theme to it. So I really did need to have that job at Matthews Crossing, because when you work at a food bank or volunteer there, you see God. I am telling you, you see God.
Yeah.
He shows up in a lot of ways.
That's right.
And so I've got all these stories from there and others, and I'm going to give $1 back from every nonprofit that I mention in my book, that if someone, when they order the book, they'll be able to put in a coupon code, and in the coupon code, if they put the name of their favorite nonprofit in the book, I'll give them $1 from that book. So isn't that
that's
neat?
so
So the
great.
whole
Yes.
coming together. But yes, and I went to your Career
so
Connections
great.
too, and I love your speakers. It was just awesome.
Yeah, we have awesome speakers. I wanted to park on real quick 2 things you said, because I wanted to just throw out a couple tips while we're talking today. But 2 right now is good, because 1, I always tell people, specifically believers, cover it in prayer.
Yes.
The whole journey, whatever it is, cover it in prayer. That's one tip. The other one is, people don't like the word networking, but exactly what you did is networking. It's being kind to people. It's talking to them. It's building friendships. And the best jobs, the best ones, come through someone who knows someone who knows someone who knows someone. And that is what happened to you.
Yes.
And how you got pulled back in to get this offer. So that's exactly an example of how the power of networking works.
Cool. And I was just going to ask you now if you could share the rest of those tips.
Oh, yeah, sure. So the other one is to have a really targeted and well done resume.
Okay.
So it's no longer the days of list everything on your resume for eternity. You stick to about 10 years and you target your resume for the job. And so the resume, even though it has your name on the top, it's not really about you. It's about the employer and how they could utilize you in their company. So that's another tip.
And you need to use keywords from their job description and throw some of those keywords in yours, because sometimes it's computers that read your resume first.
Yes, those are called applicant tracking systems, absolutely.
Yes.
You have to have those keywords or you'll never get through the applicant tracking system. Another one is we talked about networking and getting out of the house. And so meeting people, tell your friends that you're looking for something new. Get on social media and let people know. Don't hide it. Don't do this alone. We're not meant to be alone. We're meant to be in community with people. And so whenever somebody's going through career transition, one of my first questions is, have you told anyone? Who's walking this journey with you? Because even though somebody can't give you a job, maybe they can't pull a job out of their pocket, but they probably know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody.
That's right.
And you just got to follow that path.
That's right.
And my fifth one, my last tip would be, is to just kind of think about the types of jobs you want, make a list of the 10 to 15 companies you would be interested in, make a list of what are your non-negotiables. What you know, what kind, how far will you drive? How do you want to work from home? And then start asking people, hey, do you know anyone at this company? Do you know anyone at this company? Do you know anyone at this church? Do you know anyone here? And that's how the networking ends up connecting you to somebody.
Oh, that's great. And what you did too, volunteer.
Yes.
You can volunteer, and you know what?
Such a good one.
If you don't even know where to start, pick a church.
Yeah.
You know, even if you don't normally go to church, try some out.
right.
Church shop, go to some churches, meet some friendly people, and get involved.
Yes.
And there's always things that you can do. Churches do things at food banks and other places too. But
so
get
volunteering
involved.
is a great option. I remember one other moment I had that I'll never forget is we were sitting in church, and this is why church is so important for many reasons, but one of them is you hear the word differently often coming through somebody else that's teaching about it. And what our pastor had said is he was explaining this idea of holy discontent. And I had never heard those words together. And he said, what has God laid on your heart that you're wholly discontent? Could it be refugees? Could it be abandoned kids? Could it be, what is it? And clear as day, it was jobs for me.
Wow.
Clear as day, it was jobs, and it was people crushed because they didn't know a next step for a job and to bring money into their family. Clear as day. I'll never forget the words holy discontent.
That's beautiful. We only have like 30 seconds left, so I was going to do a speed prayer here.
Yes.
God, please bless everybody out there right now who are looking for a job. Please help them connect to the people that will help them get the job that they are looking for. Please help them to see their signs and to see your love. Amen.
The preceding program was brought to you by the Holy Spirit Broadcasting Network, HSBN Television.
Thanks for watching. Please click to subscribe and click the bell to be notified when we post new Anchor Moments videos.